So, what are managed services, and why would my small or medium-sized business need managed services? Pretty much all small and mid-sized companies today depend on technology in one way or another. And if you're like our other clients, it's without technology, it's pretty hard getting your job done. It's certainly less efficient. How that technology is supported has changed through the years. So let me just give you a quick little story here of why we are in the position that we're in today. So when our company started 20 years ago, we had a limited way of doing IT support. We had to drive out to all of our clients. Remote support was limited at best. We didn't have the tools for remote monitoring and things that we do today, and we had to physically drive to our clients and see them in person. Or we even had clients in the early days where they would drive their servers to us for repairs. I can't imagine that now. But a lot of the problems that we encountered, we had to put solutions. So, for instance, antivirus. We would install a program. In the old days, it was the Semantic Corporate Edition, and we would put a Semantic antivirus on the servers and the network, and it would work. And maybe there was some reporting where they could send us some reports on if it worked or not. We would either install tape drives or hard drives on the network and hope for the best because, again, the reporting was pretty sketchy. But what would happen is we'd go out, we'd install these solutions, and our clients were paying us hourly. We'd go out, we'd quote it beforehand, we'd install a solution. And maybe we didn't see them for a month or 2 or 3 or 6 months because a lot of our clients were smaller. And what would happen is we'd go back, and if we were lucky, we'd catch it before there was a problem. But we'd go out there and we're like, well, what happened to Semantic? Like, your antivirus isn't even running. Like, oh, I didn't know what that was, so I uninstalled it. Okay. Or, the hard drives. We used to have these hard drives that would plug into the servers, and we'd go, and we actually had one client that had 2 hard drives, and they would bring one off-site to the bank, and then they'd swap it with the other one. Well, one day they dropped the hard drive in the parking lot, and it stopped working. We had one client who was faithfully plugging in their USB drive. Once a week they'd swap it out, and one end of the cable wasn't plugged in, so it had been backed up in months. Well, it's one thing to catch that when you're out for another support ticket, but a lot of times we would end up with sort of these like emergencies. The server was down, we'd go out, and it's because the antivirus was removed or because the backups weren't working. And frankly, it was getting really stressful, right? The amount of emergencies that we're getting, it was just getting to the point where we said, this business is, supporting small and mid-sized companies, it is really stressful. Like, we just don't know. Like, we felt like firefighters of the digital age. And eventually we said, we are either going to figure out a better way to run this and do IT support for us and our clients, or maybe we should just stop doing this altogether. So we set about to figure out a better way of doing IT support for small and mid-sized companies. And so that's sort of the why we do managed services. But hello, Tony, what are managed services? What are our managed services? What do they look like? What do we do?
Managed services are just the easy way to offset and offload your IT over to somebody else. So managed services, the way Macatawa Technologies does it is instead of allowing you or having you go and manage and monitor all of your IT, making sure it's running like some of the examples Dave gave of, your Symantec antivirus wasn't running or your backups weren't running. You don't have to worry about that anymore. All of that would be offloaded to Macatawa Technologies. We take care of that for you, and it shifts that risk and eliminates the need for you guys to have to do it.
Yeah, so basically what we do is we'll go into a client or a prospect client, maybe a client that's not doing managed services. Maybe they're operating under the old way of paying hourly. A lot, you're getting into most of our clients now, or most of our business nowadays is managed services. But for instance, the way we do it is whether you're a prospect or an existing client, we look at your environment, the users that you have, the devices, the technology, the number of sites. There's all these different things, the complexity, how many hours a day you operate, all the things that go into your environment. We try to understand your business as a whole. And we look at that, and we've got a number of clients. And so we understand about how much time and how much effort it takes us. And so we put it through our calculator, and we calculate a cost per user. So we say, hey, based on everything you have, it'll be $120 a user or $180 a user or $90. So many factors that go into this. We say, all right, this is how much you pay. And so you have a fixed monthly fee that includes all of your support, all of your tickets, remote support, the backups, Microsoft 365, security, everything. And so we package it all in. So it's a sort of a one price monthly fee that you have. So Tony, unfortunately, we have a lot of, I guess, objections, right? People are used,
Oh,
a lot of people are
absolutely.
used to doing business the way they've always done it, right? We've been in business for 40 years and we've always just, one of the objections is we've always done it this way. We always just pay hourly and it seems to work. What would you say to somebody there?
The hardest thing with that is, if you're paying hourly for very reactive support, in the examples you gave where something breaks and we go out there and fix it, there's no opportunity to make things work better. You're always waiting for something to break. You're always waiting for something to crash and you're reacting to it. You're already experiencing downtime or lower productivity or whatever it is. So there's no incentive for us to, be proactive about it. We're always waiting for you to tell us when something's wrong. A lot of the times we won't even have visibility into any of the issues that you have, and without that visibility, we're also reacting. So the way that you've done it in the past, while it's gotten you to the point that you're at as your business has grown over the years, the next step to help use that technology to move you forward is definitely a better way to do it.
Yeah. So the argument of this is the way we've always done it, this is the way we'll always do it. I found myself trying to use that argument before because I'm like a lot of people. I don't always like change. Some change is nice. Some change isn't. But one of the things that about in business is that you've always got to be looking at changing and innovating and responding. And unfortunately, or fortunately, what I don't know, but things are always changing. And the way that IT support is delivered, another objection too is people are like, well, I don't like to buy Microsoft Office or Microsoft 365 on a subscription. I just want to buy it. Well, yeah, but that Microsoft has changed and updated their model, and this is the way it is. And the best IT companies, we've modified the way that we do things. We understand, we learn, we change, and we found that this is a much better, not only for us but for our clients, way to do it. A second big objection that we get is, hey, Tony, listen, I totaled up the total amount of support that I spent last year, and let's say it was $25,000. But you guys are proposing $2,500 a month, which is $30,000 a year. Why in the world would I ever do managed services if it's going to be more?
Yeah, and again, that goes back to that break fix and that visibility. If you look at your IT as more of a commodity, where just you use it, you kind of beat it up, and when it breaks, you call somebody to help fix it. That's not using it as best as you could. To leverage your technology to increase productivity for employees, or just have more visibility on the back end so that we can head off some of those fires or any of the downtime. Those are some of the things that we're able to do with managed services. And that's going to help eliminate some of those fires. It's going to help you continue to grow your business. So there's a lot more value that's part of a managed services offering versus just your traditional break fix. And looking at what you paid last year, a lot of the value that we would bring, isn't going to be included in the way that you've been doing it in the past.
Yeah, and so one of the other things too. So in that example, let's say somebody's paying 24,000 a year. Our proposals for 30,000 a year. A lot of times, what we found is that they might be paying that amount, but there's a lot of hidden problems in the network or things that the end users are just dealing with. Because I know a lot of bosses say this isn't the way it is here, but I'm telling you, it's happened in other places, and it might be happening in yours. End users can be afraid to talk about problems that they're having, or they'll just deal with it. And the extra $500 or $1,000 or whatever that you might pay in additional support could actually make your end users, like you said, Tony, more efficient, produce more. And so the extra money that you save. So it's hard to do a true apples to apples comparison. One of the third objections that we get is that, honestly, a lot of people view IT as a commodity. They don't view it as being at all strategic in their business. How would you talk about that, Tony? What would your response there be?
Again, IT being a commodity, that was a very traditional way of thinking about IT. It's just something again that you use, you just get it, it's there. You buy a computer and you just use it, and it should just work, for forever. But without thinking about the actual reason that you have those computers, the computer is just a tool. Ultimately, you're trying to produce a product, or you're making a service, and you employ people to use those tools in order to do that. And if you can increase your productivity for each one of your end users, your top line is definitely going to be much higher than your bottom line. The actual cost there. So again, it's not just your commodity. What we can do with managed services versus an IT company down the road that's just going to come out with the break fix mentality. There's a lot of additional value that we can offer with the managed services.
Tony, your last name is Dijkstra. I'm a Steenwijk. You're both born in the U.S., but we have a Dutch heritage. I know there's,
Oh, yeah.
One of the good things of that is that we like to be frugal. We like to save our money, pinch the pennies.
Yeah.
While on the one hand, I do agree with that. I do think that when it comes to running a business, I've moved beyond viewing our vendors, the businesses that we work with as just a commodity, right? I mean, on the one hand, you can say like electricity is a commodity. Well, sort of. So we had a power outage earlier this week, and it was up so fast, like a transformer blew, and it was up in less than an hour. So on the one hand, yes, it's a commodity, but comparing Holland BPW to consumers, the partnership to me is it's far better with BPW. Same thing with IT or your accounting services or whatever it is. I would encourage any business owner who looks purely at their expenses as only an expense or as a commodity to really reconsider that, because when it comes to professional services, I really think that that's the wrong way to look at it based on my experience. I think that you have to understand the return that you're getting on it, but I think that just looking at it as a commodity, I think is the wrong way to look at it. That one can be a harder one for me to kind of talk through. I went through that mentality shift a long time ago, but that is another objection that we hear. So I think philosophically, I see things differently than some business owners. I would just encourage, if you think of IT as a commodity or your accounting services or whatever, I'd encourage you to rethink that. We could probably have a whole video just on that alone, Tony.
Right. Well, I'm pushing into that a little bit too, Dave. Going to your, your consumers versus Holland BPW or whatever you look like. If you do that with IT service providers, you call the guy down the road that may have a lower billable rate. That's fine and good, and he may be able to get you up in a pinch. But when you have a bigger issue and you're partnering with an actual IT provider that knows who you are, understands your business, how you work. What your goals are. Those are the types of things that can come into play where different solutions or different options that, might be presented, it might be presented in a way that's going to fit you and it fits your organization much better than, the other company down the road that does it differently. There's a lot more value to that, and it's more of a relationship. It's more of a partnership versus just, hey, my computer's broken, can you fix it? The way businesses rely on their technology each and every day today versus what they were doing 20, 30 years ago. You can't run a business without IT. It's a requirement. So having somebody that can support you, that actually understands not only just your IT, but your business as well, is just a huge value.
So the fourth big objection that we get is, okay, so the example I gave earlier was $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year. Most businesses would be unlikely to have their total cost of the employee benefits, everything, to be that low. So what about the companies that maybe manage services or 5 or 10 or 1,000 a month or more? Why wouldn't they just hire their own IT person? A couple of things I think on that one would be, number one, with a managed service provider like ours, you don't just get one employee, you get access to the whole team, right? And so if you could only hire one person, they go on vacation, they get sick. Whereas when you work with a place like ours, the response time generally would be quicker because we have multiple people of different skill sets, et cetera. So that would be one reason of, yeah, you might be able to hire your own IT person. What other ones would you think of?
Oh, yeah. When I think about that, just the vast array of clients that we work with and that we service enables exposure for all of our guys, to different environments. And, a situation that we might run into at your environment, we may have run into a similar situation at a different organization that, it may have been a really difficult thing to solve. And we have those resources because of that experience with all the different clients that we work with and the client types that we work with offers a huge benefit to supporting you and your organizations.
One other one too, I think that comes to mind is the cost of the employee and the benefits and taxes and everything is a part of it, but also the tools. So, for instance, to do
Right.
IT management well, it's not just having a guy who knows how to fix things. Whether it's the antivirus or the patch management or the remote access or the security tools or whatever it is. Number one, we have multiple people here who specialize in different areas of all these tools. And so to have one person, or frankly, even a lot of times two people who can actually become experts the way that we can in each of these tools, it's unlikely to happen. I think probably the biggest objection when it comes to I want to have my own IT guy that we want, I mean, frankly, the biggest one is I like to have my IT guy down the hall. So if there's a problem, I can yell at him. That one, I don't know if we can really overcome that.
Right.
You could call us, I guess, but or we can always come to our office. But that's, I've had a few clients in the past who've wanted to do that, and for some people, there's a certain value in that. So, what about the benefits, Tony? So, some of the benefits here of managed services, we kind of talked about the why, we talked about what are they, we talked about a few
Yeah.
objections, but benefits, the first one, business review and planning, trying to get away from being reactive.
Oh yeah, that's a huge benefit. I mean, just again, I touched on it earlier, but the ability to understand and learn about your business and try to use those IT tools and leverage that IT to help your business grow. I mean, again, so often we run into it where somebody's using their computer as just a computer, and they don't think about it being a tool and what it's actually there for. I know some of us technicians and being in the IT industry, we like the blinky lights and the fast hard drives, a lot of memory and that kind of stuff. But bottom line, it's just a tool. So with the strategic business reviews that we do with you and the planning that we'll do with you, that just helps gain more intimate knowledge about your organization and gives us insight to how we can actually use those tools to help you.
Yeah, so the business review, right? That kind of comes from the second benefit, which is that there's becomes an intimate knowledge. So when you're paying, whether it's your IT guy, a one-man show, or frankly, even for some of our clients that just pay us hourly, when we go out, absolutely we want to do the best job that we can. But with our managed service clients, we put a lot more time and effort into understanding their business and their organization, how you do business. So that would be a second benefit of it. A third benefit of managed services, the ability to do proactive work. I think this was when the old days when I was a tech. I think one of the most frustrating things for me was so many of the support calls that we would do. We were putting out fires. I mean, it's stressful when it's just a large part of your day is putting out these fires, and so much we wanted to do proactive work, and we try to convince our clients, like, gosh, you need to let us do these things. And when we can come into a client and say, hey, we're going to charge you $2,000 or $5,000 a month or whatever the number is, why would they ever tell us don't do any proactive work? Because their price doesn't change. And so that's been one of the things that's been nice is that we look at it and we say, hey, we have a fixed amount that we're going to charge this client for. And we look at it, the benefit for us and for them, and we can make the decision of like, gosh, is it worth doing this proactive work? A lot of times, the answer is yes. Whereas for the clients who just pay us hourly, a lot of times they say no, and that results in more downtime or more issues later. So that's another benefit.
Yeah.
Fourth one on the list here is knowing what to expect, right? That budget.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the option to have a one fixed fee every month, it's including everything from your licensing all the way to all of your support to your updates to any calls that you have, coming into a single place, and knowing that, no matter how many service tickets are opened up, it's taken care of. You have your one fee that you're paying every single month. You know that things are being taken care of. You know what to expect because of that relationship. You've worked with us for a period of time. We're going to get you taken care of, and it's not going to cost you anymore to have that higher level of service at all. You know what to expect.
The fifth benefit here that for managed services would be, I know employees appreciate this one. The bosses maybe sometimes we can be a bit disconnected, but it frees up the employees from IT troubleshooting and actually focusing on their jobs or strengths. A lot of times what we'll find is maybe it's the office manager, maybe it's the owner, maybe it's the guy who does CAD, maybe it's, the youngest kid in the office. Somebody gets tasked with maintaining or doing the IT. And on the one hand, yes, they can call us or they can call their provider. A lot of times they spend time trying to troubleshoot network problems and fixing things, et cetera, when really they're an expert in something else. So that's been one of the things that a lot of times pushes our clients, right? Where, Tony, we had this where they, it's like, gosh, IT is taking up way too much of my time. And they're able to offload that, and it feels good to be able to specialize in what you do.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to specialize in IT, come knock on our door.
I know.
Work for an IT company versus what your specialty is or where your gifts are. It doesn't necessarily make sense if you're an architect that's sitting there and you're drafting all day long. It doesn't make sense for you to spend hours and hours trying to figure out what the best computer is or how to support your network. Having somebody that's an expert in that, which would be us, offloading that to us makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the sixth benefit here today would be the shifting of risk and responsibility. So when you pay your IT provider or your IT guy hourly, most of that burden on making sure it works and ownership of the network really is with you. With managed services, you're basically taking that risk and shifting it. Obviously, you still own your infrastructure, you still own your data, but now making sure it works day in and day out, it's on us now, and that's a big thing too that we've seen as organizations grow and mature. They're looking at ways to continue to focus on their strengths and outsource or offload the things that aren't their strengths.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the seventh one here, Tony? Peace of mind of being monitored and managed, and just peace of mind in general.
Yeah, I think going back to the example that you used of the good old days with Norton endpoint, whether it's working, whether it's not, honestly, there was no visibility into it. If you didn't have somebody that was working at your organization and checking those things regularly, it may be working, it might not be. Knowing with our fully managed services that we have agents that are installed. We know if things are running, if updates are happening, if there's antivirus, if it's turned on, if it's scanning things. We get reports, we have visibility into that all the time. And if something breaks and all of a sudden it's not running, we can see that and we'll go ahead and take the necessary steps to go ahead and get that taken care of for you. So there's some peace of mind with that, knowing that things are being monitored, things are being watched on the back end. We have 24/7, 365 monitoring. It's automated. It lets us know if things are broken or if it detects anything. It's something that you offload completely to us and we take it and run with it.
Above and beyond all these reasons we've talked about, I think one of the other reasons to consider managed services versus just paying hourly is probably one of the things that made me the most uncomfortable as an IT professional was when we're billing hourly, our incentive, if we're being honest here, our incentive is we want to have a network for IT that's pretty good, but not so perfect that it never breaks. And frankly, the crappier it is and the more problems it has, the more money we make. And I always felt a little weird about that, right? It'd be like a car dealership, like trying to sell like the crummiest car that the shoppers are willing to put up with because they know they'll keep coming back for repairs. And I always hated that. I always felt like I always had to justify it. And I don't want this stuff to break, but frankly, Tony, I've never found things that are perfect. We found really great solutions. Rock solid solutions is one of our core values, but I always felt a little weird about that. So when you have this hourly business model, it's always a little bit weird. And we'd get into these things where it was like we were trying to be proactive, we're trying to have these solutions, and then our clients wouldn't take them, and then things might break down later. Then they'd argue about the bill, and then it was not
Right.
great. So what I really like about the managed services is that we basically say, hey, we're going to do it for X. And we know we can't gouge our clients. I mean, if we're not competitive, we'll lose our clients to the competition. But it gives us this incentive to say, like, let's just say the managed services are $2,500 a month for a client. We know now, obviously, we want our clients to call. We want them to report problems. We want to fix the issues. But we know that the fewer problems that you have, the less time that we'll be putting into actually doing service on a reactive standpoint, and it makes it a little more profitable for us. And on top of that, if we can create a little bit of margin there, we can actually do things that are more proactive to even drive those number of problems down even further. So I think I would encourage you, if you're paying hourly for support, to reconsider sort of that incentive, because when as a free market guy, we look at incentives, and I think this is a really interesting one to consider as well.
Yeah.
Tony, anything else that you think it would be good for our clients or our prospect clients to understand about managed services or why they should do them?
Yeah, I think this was a great overview of some of the objections that we face and most of the benefits for it. I have not come across a client that would not benefit from managed services yet. So,
yeah, and it's funny because we've had clients come on board over the last 5, 6, 7 years who haven't done managed services, right? And they say, "Oh my gosh, it might cost more, or it's different than what I've done." And the clients that we have that do managed services have the highest level of satisfaction of all of our clients, because we still have clients that are paying hourly or just projects. But most of our clients are on the managed service plan. And those clients, it's crazy because on the one hand, yes, it is the most expensive, but they have the highest level of satisfaction, both from the owners, the operations managers, office managers, whatever they are, as well as end users. And so on the one hand, you'd think, well, I pay more, I should get more. Yes, that's true. But it is affordable. It is the way to do it. And ultimately, we find that it brings higher level of satisfaction to a lot of our clients. And frankly, we've even had clients who have told us, hey, man, our company has grown over the last couple of years, and we couldn't have done things the way we were. And IT is a critical part of our business, and it's helped us grow. So if any of those things apply to you, we'd love to chat with you more. But otherwise, thanks. And for future topics or other things that we can help you out about, please let us know. Send us a comment or an email or a note. Catch us on social media. Otherwise, Tony, thanks for your time.
absolutely. Thanks, Dave.